He's on his phone. They're joining from the phone.
Yeah, it looks like he's joining from his phone. Sometimes they're doing that while they're driving. I hope they're driving safely.
Awesome. Guess we're going live in 2 minutes.
So we are live on Facebook. I'm going to make you as the host now, so that way, and then once you are ready, you can pass it on to Brad.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Awesome.
We'll give it a couple minutes here. We'll start right at the top of the hour.
Perfect.
Just reaching down, putting my phone into quiet mode so we're not disrupted.
Welcome, Shane. Welcome, Lori. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. We'll get started right at the top of the hour. Thank you and welcome for joining. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Shannon.
Welcome, Rob and Charlene.
Oh, glad to be here.
Welcome. Welcome, Doreen. All righty, folks. Well, I definitely want to be respectful of everybody's time. Hi, Doreen. Welcome.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much. I'd like to first, thanks Suresh and Connecting GTA for allowing us this time today. We definitely appreciate it. We're excited to share with, all you small business owners, what we find to be so important out there, and especially in today's environment with COVID and the unexpected closures and a lot of the legalities that come behind, do I keep my business open? Can I get out of this lease? All sorts of questions that we as small business owners have. And so we're excited to share with you, what LegalShield could most definitely potentially help you as a small business owner. I am going to, a little bit about my background. I'm a mom of 3 teenage kids. I'm a hockey mom. My background is corporate. Prior to LegalShield, also a stay-at-home mother. And then I found myself downsized. Luckily, I had the LegalShield membership, and I say it in a way that why I'm so passionate about what I do with LegalShield now and educating small business owners is that small business owners have a lot of questions in and around how to handle employees if they need to, let's say, let somebody go, or they've got HR issues, or they've got leasing issues or contracts and documents to be reviewed. And so I'm really passionate about sharing the services with other small business owners and giving them the ability to have resources at their fingertips when they need them. So I'm going to get out of the way. I'd like to introduce to you a gentleman that I've known now for the past 4 years. He's my mentor in the business. He was a small business owner, was a very happy business owner of this phenomenal membership. But he's been building a tremendous business and is very knowledgeable when it comes to the ins and outs of the membership and how it could really benefit a small business owner. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the call over to Mr. Brad Roberts. Over to you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that great introduction. And Suresh, always an opportunity to thank you to participate and help your business owners any way that we can add value. I am coming to you, everybody, from our cottage up in just outside of Parry Sound. We were actually up here working on our cottage when COVID-19 happened, and then they said shelter in place. So I thought, well, what a good idea, because literally we can do this business from anywhere through the advent of Zoom technology. And so some of you are dialing in on your phones. Some of you are dialing in maybe at work and trying to keep this quiet away from your boss or double SOB as you try and build your business outside of your full 9 to 5. I know what that was like. That was me. I had a full-time job that I commuted to. I don't miss the commute at all, but I did that sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours one way if you got stuck in traffic or a snowstorm or whatever. And I started a small business franchise on top of they said 40 hours, but we all know it's more than that. You put more than 40 hours in, they paid you the salary, right? And bought your time. And I was really helping somebody else build their business as an employee. Then I figured out, the month was longer than the money and I had to do something for myself. I was never going to get ahead without owning my own business. And many of you have already felt that pain. And hopefully some of what I've just said sort of makes some sense to you. And so I got the concept of buying into a system. I bought a franchise. Somebody else had proven it had worked in so many other locations all over North America. I thought, well, I'm smart enough. I got a master's degree. I'll make it work here. I'm smart enough to follow a system and duplicate. And so I did that. I had 2 locations, a staff of 25 people, 2 full-time, 23 part-time on top of my full-time job. So I go into one location in the morning and solve yesterday's problems before I headed off to my job. Sometimes I'd take phone calls during the commute, or sometimes at lunch, or went and did the banking that I had to do during my lunch hour. And, I felt like I was kind of fitting my job in around caring for my business, but I really wasn't doing that all that well. The business was doing great. I had amazing staff, but a lot of babysitting. And so then on my way home, I pick up the phone and, talk to both locations and get into the second location and solve that day's problems before, cleaning the toilets and vacuuming the floors. And you think you own the business owns you. And here it is at 10 o'clock at night. I'm in my location. Everybody's been sent home. We're supposedly closed and I've got the open sign still on. And a gentleman walks in and shares the concept that I get to share with all of you. And that is a LegalShield small business plan with me. And he said these words: I've got something that will help your business and save you money. And I thought, wow, what an interesting concept. I'd love to know what that is, because every small business owner wants to save money and they always want to grow their business. So I was just curious enough, and he handed me a CD. That'll tell you that it was about 18 years ago. It was before the advent of DVDs, folks, right? So just after the 8-track cassette tape. And we've been around for a while. And so I listened to the information that I get the pleasure and the honor of sharing with all of you guys in just a few minutes. And it made sense to me. As opposed to paying $300 or $400 an hour for a lawyer, a subscription-based monthly service. And we're going to talk about what business owners are facing and the challenges and how maybe we can help you as we get into this. But I just want to share my background and kind of where I came from and how I got here. And so for the first 5 years, I was a very satisfied customer of this service. Very happy member. Used it for all kinds of stuff. I'll kind of share some of my stories as we go through, but I'll also share other people's stories because I've been selling this to small business owners, much like many of you on the call today, for about 15 years. So let me get into my slideshow here and we'll get started. There's my contact information if you need to see it, you want to take a screenshot, but I am going to direct everybody back to Shannon and Suresh as part of the Connect Small Business and the GTA, and really encourage you guys to get back to those people that invited you on. Again, so thankful and grateful for this opportunity to share with you folks. So if you've never heard of LegalShield, I hadn't when I first heard of our company. That was our home office down in Ada, Oklahoma. we sell a series of plans that give people access to the legal system in a way that they've never, ever believed was possible. Today, of course, we're going to talk about small businesses, and that means all of you. But just so you know, we have a legal plan for a family. We have an employee benefit plan if you have employees, and we have identity theft plans. We don't have time to talk about those today. Again, we are going to focus on our small business plans. So a few years ago, LegalShield commissioned a survey of small business owners, about 4,000 small business owners across North America. And here's what small business owners told us were some of their biggest challenges. Ask yourself if these resonate with you. Number one was human resources. You know, when I got involved in my business, everybody said to me that being the business owner was going to be the smallest issue. The biggest issue that I would face would be my employees. And that was my experience. I was constantly hiring, firing, disciplining, training, re-educating, redirecting, recorrecting. It was a challenge. So I'm not surprised that small business owners told us that their number one challenge was human resources. The second one was suppliers. Then third one was customers, right? Business would be easy if it wasn't for the employees, the suppliers, and the customers, right? If you could just do what you did without all those headaches, business would be simple, right? Then, of course, the government gets in on it, right? From the signage of your store or the flyers or a contest that you want to run to employee handling, part-time, spare time, full-time. You know, do I have to pay CPP? Do I have to pay EI? What do I need to do to remit my payroll? How do I discipline them? How do I let them go appropriately? What are the human resource labor board issues? I'm just admitting some other folks to the waiting room. Welcome everybody that's joining us. Thanks for joining us today. You know, government compliance, WSIB issues, right? Today, compliance with COVID-19 issues. And then the government comes in and shuts you down maybe for you didn't do anything wrong. Your customers didn't do anything wrong. Your landlord didn't do anything wrong. Your suppliers didn't do anything wrong. All of a sudden, small business owners find themselves out of business because the government stepped in. That was obviously a major challenge dating back to mid-March and has been for, you know, are we going back to stage one? Are we going back to stage two? What are you doing? How am I dealing with it? We're going to talk about some of those issues today. The next issue they told us was taxation. Understanding the tax rules as a small business owner and how it interplayed with their personal situation. What was the best way to deal with it? Advertising was a challenge, and some people didn't know how to do that very well. Technology for many business owners, a huge challenge, and particularly staying up to speed with technology and the costs associated with that. How do I grow my business? How do I protect my business? How do I duplicate my business without losing control? Is it a company-owned store? Is it franchising? Do I sell the rights but still keep the trademark and the ownership? How do I go through all that process? So maybe some of that resonates with all of you guys. And it's no different than what big business deals with. All of these are big business names that we all represent. And obviously they've grown from a concept, one store, two stores, to a massive chain, a massive brand. Some of them have gone out of business because they didn't quite understand or adapt quickly enough to the changes in the environment, whether it was the purchasing environment, selling environment, the online versus standard bricks and mortar, or whether it was the changing retail environment. We don't know. But here's what we do know. Big businesses have in-house legal counsel. Those people are on salary, on staff, and down the hall. They're a team of lawyers, which means that big business has a way of capping their legal costs based on how many lawyers they have and the salary that they pay those lawyers, right? Because whether they have to work overtime or not doesn't increase the legal bill that the big business pays. So if they have any kind of an issue, they just walk down the hall and ask their in-house legal counsel. But small and medium-sized businesses don't. They simply can't afford it at $300 or $400 or $500 an hour. They can't afford to have in-house legal counsel. I mean, heck, sometimes they're trying to figure out whether you can have an extra person stay on and help on Saturdays as part-time wages, right? That's the biggest expense a small business deal with it. So they can't afford it. So typically they don't, or they have Aunt Mabel. And maybe Aunt Mabel is a family friend. Maybe she's a real estate lawyer, but she's a lawyer and we call her our corporate lawyer. Sometimes you can only go to the well to friends and family so many times before, now you've got to take it out of pocket. So we assume if you're a business owner joining us today that you've got some sort of business legal counsel. Otherwise, you may not be in business, right? We're going to show you a way that maybe we can increase your access and reduce your costs and benefit your business, help your business and save you money. So here's in a sense what we do. Small business owners have all the same problems that big business owners do, but they don't have the big business resources, right? What LegalShield does is we give all small and medium-sized businesses owners big business resources at a small business price. And effectively, we balance the scales of justice. So it's no longer little old you and David and Goliath, big old situation, big government, big credit card, big bank, big supplier, threatening customer because of who they know. Whatever it is, we balance those scales of justice because once you understand your rights, you can make good decisions to move forward with your business, right? All right, so let's talk about what you are an expert at. If you're a business owner, you've obviously gained some expertise and decided to strike out on your own. Maybe it's because of your education, maybe it's because of your job experience, but you're an expert in real estate. Maybe you're an insurance expert, a construction or HVAC expert. Maybe you're an amazing mechanic, a dentist or an orthodontist. Maybe you're a great shoe fitter, orthodontics or orthotics or whatever. Maybe you're an awesome person at safety equipment, and personal safety equipment is a huge issue right now with COVID-19. Maybe you're a car or a boat expert. Whatever it may be, you have an incredible amount of expertise in the area that you've chosen to go into business in. Here's the flip side. You're probably a novice at basically everything else. I mean, straight up, I was a lousy accountant. I hated doing the books, didn't enjoy that process, put it off as far and as fast as I could, didn't fully understand taxes, didn't have any extra money to do any investing. Maybe this sort of hits home with some of you. I certainly wasn't an expert in fixing my 3 daughters' teeth. I hired an expert to do that, right? Plumbing, repairing your brakes. I always talk to a small business owner about this, right? Because we all use our cars in order to earn income. Maybe we have a fleet vehicle that we use to deliver our goods or services, right? But would you want somebody that's only Google searched or watched a YouTube video to repair the brakes on your car or your spouse's car that's got your children riding in the back seat? I don't care how passionate they are. I'm super excited. You're my first customer. You're my first complete brake replacement job. I don't care how excited or passionate that person was. I'd be like, I'll take a pass. Let me go find somebody that I'm not their guinea pig, right? And we all do this. We all take our vehicles to our mechanic. When the dishwasher needs to be replaced, we call our plumber, right? We take our kids to the orthodontist and we go see the dentist on a proactive basis, because keeping our teeth cleaned and keeping our cars oil changed and tuned up is cheaper than it is to get a whole new set of dentures or a new engine. So we practice proactive solutions in almost every area of our life, and we hire someone to do that for us because we're not an expert in those areas. And conversely, accountants don't, hire, they don't build their own houses. They don't repair their own cars. If you're an insurance expert, you don't, do your own plumbing. Everybody hires an expert in the area that they're not an expert at to do that job. Well, except when it comes to legal. all of our lives, we've been taught to be reactive in this area. How many people could sort of relate to the saying, don't call the lawyer yet, the problem's not that big yet, right? Or what happens in these four walls stays in these four walls, because it's costly to access the legal system. So we try and do it ourselves. It's cheaper. We take our car to a mechanic to fix it, but we try and fix our own legal problems. Our mechanic fixes our car proactively, but we reactively deal with the legal system. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So let me, before I jump into things, share some recent member testimonials with you, some of our small business clients, right? A small business owner signed up for what he thought was a good point of sale terminal, switching merchants that supplied him with that, and, you know, got a rate. Well, perhaps not. It was an introductory rate. And he missed reading the fine print because he didn't have his lawyer review the contractor document. But every month his fees kept going up and up and up, to the point that he was paying more with this new provider that promised to save him more money than what his old provider was charging him on a daily basis. And no amount of phone calls to the sales rep, the district sales rep, the company was getting him anywhere. But because he was a LegalShield member, he picked up the phone and said, hey, I'm kind of at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. They asked to review his point of sale terminal contract that he'd signed. They reviewed it and they chose to write a letter on his behalf, and he received $6,000 in an apology letter from the district sales rep, and was completely let out of his contract because it was misrepresented by the membership. He couldn't get anywhere, but his LegalShield membership got him $6,000. You know, one of our clients had a lease that required the parking lot in that shopping mall to be plowed before 6 o'clock in the morning every single day. Well, if it wasn't plowed, that member was making a phone call and another phone call to the landlord and another phone call to the landlord, and the parking lot still wasn't being plowed. Yet the lease required it and he was paying for it, but he wasn't receiving the value. Because he was a LegalShield member, one phone call to his law firm, they reviewed his commercial retail space agreement. They wrote a letter to the landlord, and that landlord instantly, within 4 hours, had the parking lot cleared, and it was never a problem since then, right? Just being able to get the lease terms honored in a little old you, big old landlord situation, balance that scales of justice. One of our members had a photocopier, brand new photocopier. They were a design firm putting together proposals for clients all the time, needed it to appear in color. They got this new fancy photocopier in that could, you know, drop phone calls and Wi-Fi pictures from your phone and email, and from off-site, they could mail into the office and print out stuff, and everything printed out in black and white. 6 different service calls in, nothing, but yet they were still being charged for a color photocopy price plus the lease of this super high fancy copier equipment. Well, one letter, one phone call from our law firm, the warranty was replaced, the unit was replaced, the warranty was fulfilled, and there was a huge credit back to our client. Another one of our clients had a labor board issue. They fired somebody. The employee thought that it wasn't done properly, and they went screaming off to the labor board. Now, if you were a small business owner and you received a phone call from the Labor Board of Ontario, would it not make your heart skip a beat? Would it not raise your blood pressure, stress you out a little bit, right? But because this member was already a member and they consulted their law firm before they chose to discipline, and then give a verbal warning, and then give a written warning, and then finally let that employee go with the severance package that was just above what was necessary according to the Labor Code of Ontario, then that member was able to pick up the phone, consult with their law firm, and supply all the material to the labor board, and the issue went away. So there wasn't an investigation. There wasn't money owed and a lawsuit or anything. Talk about peace of mind, proactively doing something so that reactively you didn't have to be worried or stressed out. So let's talk about some coverage differences between our small business plan and what we sometimes think of as personal coverage. So LegalShield has a personal plan to cover you as an individual, and we have a small business plan to cover your business. So let's talk about this. You have an apartment or a condo lease. Well, as a small business owner, you probably have some sort of commercial or retail space lease, and the laws are different for that, right? You're maybe dealing with a mall landlord. Maybe you're dealing with someone who has multiple properties, and they're very difficult. We call these guys absentee landlords, right? In a personal situation, you need a will and power of attorney, especially as a business owner or a parent. As a small business owner, you need articles of incorporation. How do you keep your minutes up to date every single year so that you're in compliance with those articles of incorporation? What do you need to do to have an annual board of directors meeting and pass the minutes, pass the last year's balance sheet and profit and loss statement as presented by your accountant, which might be your spouse or your kid, right? How do you go about doing that so that you're in compliance with your articles of incorporation? In a personal situation, we often think of, before we get married, having a prenup, because we want to make sure that both parties are protected and it's fair. Well, in a small business, the equivalent to that would be a partnership agreement. Now, I want to pause here for just a second. Shannon kind of hinted about this when she introduced me. Let's think about this right now. If your partnership agreement says X, but your articles of incorporation and the way that the shares are owned says Y, and yet your will and power of attorney doesn't mirror the wording in your partnership agreement and your articles of incorporation, what happens if something happens to one of the partners in the business? Well, from a personal standpoint, the shares, and I'm not giving you legal advice here, folks, but I am sharing with you my experience of sharing and helping small business owners now for 15 years. The shares of the deceased spouse automatically go to the surviving spouse in the will or power of attorney situation, even in the absence of a will or power of attorney situation. Well, guess what? That surviving spouse may know nothing about the business, but all of a sudden they're a 50% owner because they own the shares. And the partnership agreement gives them voting rights to help run the business. Now you're in a bit of a nightmare. You've got all the experience as the co-partner. Your ex-partner is now deceased, and now you've got to deal with a spouse that doesn't know anything. How do you deal with that situation? How do you buy them out? How do you wind up the business? How do you function, right? This is a huge issue that I find small business owners run into all the time. My experience says that as a small business owner, this is free advice to you. You need to make sure that your articles of incorporation and what it says in those articles of incorporation agree with your partnership, and not just in good times, but in the event of a bad situation happening. And those two things need to also agree with your personal will and power of attorney situation, so that if you're faced with a situation where, something unfortunate happens, that there aren't these three disparaging pieces of legal documentation that disagree with each other. And now your partner's going to court, your spouse is going to court, and none of the paperwork agrees. The poor judge throws the whole thing out, and everybody spends all the money that you've worked so hard to earn fighting to figure out who's right and who's wrong. It's an absolute disaster. So if you get nothing from today's seminar, please, please, please make sure that you take the time to get your partnership, your articles of incorporation, and your personal will and power of attorney all agreeing and saying the same thing. All right, let's move forward. What about personal car insurance? Can you use your personal car for business use? Does it void your personal warranty? We've got Uber and delivery services, food delivery happening all the time. How does that affect your car insurance, right? What about business fleet insurance? What's the tax implications of using a business vehicle for personal use? What about your E&O insurance? Does it cover you off hours? Does it cover you on the weekend? Does it cover you in a business vehicle while you're on a vacation from your business? It's crazy questions. Your personal loan versus your operating line of credit. What about your child bullied at school? It's not covered under your small business plan, but a vendor contract is not covered under your personal legal plan. If you got a speeding ticket, well, that might impact your car insurance rates personally, but it also might impact your business fleet insurance because you're a high risk driver. What about government compliance? All the signage bylaws, COVID-19 compliance, WMIS. How do you lay off an employee but keep them so they don't go to your competition during this difficult time period of uncertainty? How long can we lay someone off? Just giving you some folks some examples. Furnace warranties or HR issues. What about a HST or a CRA audit? Would a tax lawyer assist you with that? Or would you like to go into one of those on your own? What about debt collection of a customer? Not the money that's owed to you by Uncle Bill, but from a customer, right? So let's take a look at our small business overplans and how we might be able to help you in your business. Now, folks, again, this is information sharing. You can't buy what you don't know exists. And I was so thankful that the small business professional from LegalShield came in and showed me this alternative, because I would have tried to run my business on a Google search or on what I knew or what I could, get a half an hour of legal advice here or there for, but it's not comprehensive. It's not all encompassing, right? So this saved me thousands of dollars. So LegalShield offers 4 different small business plans. And we're going to do some Q&A at the end of this, so stick around if you've got time. Hopefully you've reserved the hour here. We're going to do some Q&A and maybe we can answer some questions specifically for you and help you out. 4 small business plans, one of them for a home-based business. If you work from home, like so many of us do right now, right? We've got that covered. And we also have a scalable small business plan depending on the number of employees for a business that's located outside of your home. Now, we only cover for-profit businesses. Now you're thinking, maybe you're laughing because, you and I both ran nonprofit businesses at some point, but it wasn't purposeful, right? The whole idea is to be a profitable business. In other words, we don't cover charities or an organization that you might volunteer for or a nonprofit, okay? Your business has to be not publicly traded. In other words, LegalShield's market is to serve the small to medium-sized business market, not somebody that's large enough to do an IPO and get on, one of the stock exchanges. And LegalShield's from a coverage standpoint, we only cover 1 tax ID per small business plan. So if you have 2 different businesses with 2 different HST or GST or federal tax numbers, then you're going to need 2 different business plans unless you have a holdco. And again, maybe we can give you some advice to help you with that. It covers your small business's business legal needs like we've talked about. In other words, one more time, the owner needs a personal plan to make sure that their will and power of attorney is in alignment with the articles of incorporation and the partnership agreement. So really staying really high level, here's what we cover. Unlimited phone consultation. So like a large business CEO has a legal problem, they just walk down the hall and talk to their in-house legal counsel. You get to do this from an app on your phone, whether you're out at a client's job site or you're driving in between clients, whether you're making a phone call on your lunch hour at your job to ask a question about your business that you're going to go to after your work. That was my situation, right? Unlimited phone consultation. What's unlimited? As many times as you need. And our lawyers will tell you over and over again, please call us while you're thinking of doing something. Before you go and execute, call us and ask us, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Is there something that I don't know? Because the lawyers are the experts. Their job is to advise us, right? We go into the mechanic and we say, it's making a noise in the back corner. We don't know what it is. Is it a shock? Is it a spring? Is it a brake? Is it the emergency brakes? Is it a wheel bearing? What is it, right? We don't know. That's the expert's job. So just pick up the phone and say, hey, I need some advice on this thing I'm thinking about, or this issue just happened to me. What are my rights? How should I respond? What's my best course of action, right? They'll also do document review for you. So look, people say to me, oh, I've never needed a lawyer before. Hang on. Have you signed a contract or a document? And every adult should put up their hand and say yes. Well, guess what? You've used a lawyer. It just wasn't your lawyer. It was the other guy's lawyer who wrote that contract or document, probably not in your best interest. They probably wrote in the best interest of the business that's handing you the contract or document. If you're a service-based business, you have a right to get a down payment upon signing of a contract. Well, that percent that you can ask for varies from one industry to another. If you're an industry that you're doing some work in someone's home, like installing a pool or a deck or finishing a basement, you're going to put a whole bunch of cost of goods, the drywall, the plumbing, the paint, the pool itself, the deck, into someone's home and install it, attach it to their home. You can't wait till the end of the contract to get paid. There's a percentage that's due along each stage, different percentages for different trades. Have you had your contract that you present to your client reviewed to make sure that it's in compliance with today's laws? Because the laws change all the time. You might, well, I've had a contract, I've been in business for 20 years. Yeah, but is the contract that you used 20 years ago still compliant with today's laws in your industry, in your province? Or should you be changing it and updating it to cover your butt a little bit more, right? So in other words, before you send a contract to a client, get it reviewed by your law firm. It's covered under your membership at no additional cost. Before you sign a contract given to you by another supplier, written by their lawyer, check with your lawyer to make sure that it's in good idea. One of our members used this to renegotiate a small business loan. Now, it was the same loan, just extended for a few more years with the same bank. No increase, no decrease, no new collateral put up for documentation, nothing. It's just a 5-year extension. Our law firm found an error that saved our member $7,000. That if our member had signed it, they would have been obligated to pay the $7,000, and that would have cost them, an awful lot of money just because they didn't have their lawyer to review it. Let's talk about letters written on your behalf. You can write a letter, but as in the membership testimonials that I shared at the beginning, it wasn't getting our members anywhere. But when the law firm wrote a letter, it intervened. Why? Because it balanced the scales of justice. This is perhaps my favorite part of our service, because let me explain to you how this works. If it's little old you writing a letter to your cell phone provider, your landlord for your commercial retail space, your bank, okay, that letter goes to the customer service department, otherwise, in my opinion, known as the claims denial department, okay? But if your lawyer writes a letter to that same company, it goes to that company's legal department. And legal looks at it and goes, it's cheaper to make this person happy than it is to litigate. Because they don't look at you as a small business owner. They look at you as somebody who's lawyered up. They look at you as somebody who's educated and knows their rights and is taking action because they've probably beaten you up. The whole point of most of what businesses do is they assume you don't have access to counsel. You don't have access to your rights, and they're saying whatever they say to take advantage of you, assuming that you're not going to know how to defend yourself. And probably 90% of the time they're right, and they win. But let's help you as a small business owner switch over to the other side. Let's help you empower yourself. Unlimited phone consultation, document review, a lawyer giving you his opinion and saying, you know what, let me help you. I want to write a letter to this landlord. And it balances those scales of justice all the time. It's my favorite part of the service. Debt collection letters. I love this one because I show business owners how to make money with our membership rather than spend money. You might be thinking, this is a sales pitch. It's not. It's an education seminar to let you know that this product exists in the marketplace. Maybe we can help you. We'd love to have an individual conversation with you at the end. Speak to us afterwards, send us a note in the chat, and we'll get back to you. Shannon and I'll have a conversation with you individually. But check this out. Most business owners don't even bother to send a debt collection letter for less than $100, especially through a debt collection agency, because you got to give up 30, 40 points to those folks, right? It's just not worth the paperwork. It's cheaper to write it off and be done with it. Well, if you had a law firm send a debt collection letter, do you think that would get a different level of attention from your client? Typically it does. We call these motivational letters. They typically motivate the person to do what they should have done in the first place. We have a very, very high collection rate. And so if you could send a debt collection letter for $100 and collect on it, that would more than pay for most of our plans on a monthly basis, the monthly membership fee. And so if you sent 2 or 3 debt collection letters and recovered them, then you'd actually be making money with our service as opposed to it costing you money. And you'd have the peace of mind and just the confidence in yourself. That guy didn't take advantage of me. That's huge, right? All the other stuff we talked about, your lease agreement, human resource issues, landlords, customers, vendors, government compliance, municipal bylaws. This is a big one. Workers' compensation, joint ventures, bringing on a partner, having someone come in, you teaching them all your trade secrets because they have expertise in an area, and then they leave you and take all those trade secrets with you. How do you protect yourself from those situations? And as well as designated consultations on special issues in terms of import, export across the border as we become more and more of a global society. How do you expand your business beyond, your little 5, 10, 15 kilometers in your town, but yet not have the idea stolen or your name dragged through the mud or whatever? And yes, there's a huge member discount of 25% off. The home business supplement, eligible for for-profit businesses that are working out of the home, that are wholly operated by the member and their spouse with no employees. And we cover all the things that I've talked about, but I want to point out this bottom one here, CRA Audit Services. So if you were a self-employed person working on commission or just out of your home on, odd jobs here and there, or if you're a landlord, you have some rental properties, either in your home or a separate home, this plan applies to you. And if you were audited on the personal self-employment commission or rental income schedule on your personal tax return, do you think you could get a tax lawyer to advise you or help you with that audit for less than $150 a year? And every single time I ask that question, before I even finish the question, the person I'm asking you answers and goes, no, of course not. You can't get a tax lawyer to even look at you for less than $300, $400 an hour, never mind $150 a year. Well, our home business supplement is an additional $12.95 a month. So would you like to have that peace of mind? And by the way, that makes everything an eligible tax deduction. So small business owners are excited to know that they can write this off as an eligible business expense and cover themselves, no different than writing off any legal fees. Our small business plans for businesses that are outside the home are more based on how many full-time employees you have. So 10, 50, or up to 100 employees. Now in Canada, that's 95, 97% of the businesses in Canada. Very few businesses have more than 100 employees. So we cover a large portion of the market. And we're only talking about full-time T4 employees, not subcontractors, part-time, or seasonal employees. So it really makes our plans affordable. Of course, they can't be publicly traded. And of course, again, the reminder that they're for profit. And all the things that we've talked about, phone consultation, unlimited through an app on phone, peace of mind, the ability to run your business where you need to, calling in from the job site or in transit, designated consultations to help your business grow, all the legal correspondence. Now, as a small business owner, you never again have to send something out, whether it's an internal document to your employees or an external document to your customers or your vendors, without having your lawyer vet it first, so that you've got the peace of mind of knowing that you're in the right and that you're covered and you haven't overextended yourself or said something that opens you up to a potential lawsuit. Those debt collection letters, like I've talked about, and trial defense if you're sued, that's an option for us. Speak to the person that invited you, and we can cover those just huge insurance policy. If you're sued, we've got a bank of hours already booked in your legal plan to cover you. So what does it mean? It means that you as a business owner can actually operate from now a position of strength beyond your area of expertise, but because now you've got good advice, allowing you to make good decisions. No more stressing, no more guessing, no more what I call Google supported or fingers crossed decisions. You know, so well, this is what we're going to do. I hope that works, right? Which means that you can actually have peace of mind in a sleepful night as opposed to a sleepless night. Let me just share one case study and then we'll do some Q&A with all of you. You know, I asked this business employer what she thought the cost of a lawyer was in her town. She said $300 an hour. I said, what about a small business consultant, an efficiency consultant, an advertising consultant, somebody that would help you grow your business? She said, well, probably not 300, but maybe $200 an hour. I said, all right, how many people need to access our plan? You and somebody else? She said, yeah, me and my partner. And then I asked her a bunch of questions. If cost was not an issue, in an average year, how many times would you ask a lawyer to send a letter on your behalf? How many documents would you like to have a lawyer review per year? How many times would you call someone just to get good advice, to make sure that you're thinking along the right lines and making the right decision? How many times would you seek guidance on sales or marketing? And she told me none, because that was her area of expertise, right? How many times would you need outside help on an HR challenge? She said, that's a big challenge. She said, a couple of times a year, we have to hire and fire people. You know, what about tax information? She said she had a good tax accountant. So what about technology? Nope, her kid was going through for technology in school, so she was covered. So we put together a customized plan for her. Debt collections was an issue for that business owner, right? I said, well, let me just say at what you told me a lawyer was worth, if you used our plans as much as are available to you, you'd spend about $12,000 a year. How close was that to what you paid your lawyer? She said it was smack on. In fact, she spent about $11,500 last year, or just under $1,000 a month. I said, well, what if I could show you a way that we could save you almost 11 grand? And let's be super conservative. Let's say that you had one of our small plans and you kept your corporate lawyer, kept that relationship that you want and that you've developed over the years, because you don't want to, you know, abandon that. I understand that. What if you could just save half of that amount, maybe $5,000 or $6,000? What if I could show you access to everything that I've talked about today for about $120 a month or about $1,500 a year, giving you increased, effectively unlimited access, keeping the relationship with your lawyer and putting an increased profitability to the bottom line of your company? Would you be interested in learning more? She said, yes, absolutely. And on top of all of that, we've got a member perks program for all of our small business owners. Huge, huge savings. I'll give you one example before we go to the Q&A here. My wife and I rented a vehicle, and through our member perks program last year, saved $220 on 1 week's car rental compared to going to the corporate website. As we went through our member perks, we saved $220. By the way, that was US. That paid for my LegalShield small business plan for at least 3 months before I even applied the conversion factor between US and Canadian dollars. So I want to give you folks in the last few minutes of our time here, I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions, but you know, maybe you want to ask questions individually of Shannon and I in a private environment. Just drop us an email in the chat, send us an email. We'd be happy to do that, set up a time to consult with you individually. But if you've got a general question we can answer, just remember, we're not lawyers, so I can't give you legal advice, but I can help you understand how a plan might benefit you in your small business. So as I wrap up, Suresh, I want to turn this back to you. Thank you again so much for your time. If you want to make any comments, let me turn it back to you first, and then we'll take some Q&A.
Well, thank you. This is a great event, and let's focus on the question and answers so that way we can make sure that everyone is happy.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. Look, we got a small business owner, Loit Incorporated, down the bottom there. Go ahead and unmute yourself, sir.
Can you hear me, Brad?
Yep, go ahed.
Hello. Just want to say first, not so much a question, but wanted to take the opportunity to thank both yourself and Shannon, some very long 30, 40 plus year friend relationships. And I have launched a business as of recent. And Shannon I guess, as the access to these services through the membership, we've got a very, very exciting future with a company to be able to help inspire a lot of people through some digital marketing and promotional work. And a lot of that peace of mind, security, and comfort, I can feel it, is because of Shannon helping me understand just a tap away with some support and questions. And we're very excited. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm glad you're a member. Glad you're seeing some value in it, sir. Good stuff. Anybody else want to ask any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Brad, I got a question. You know, a lot of times as business owners, we have to leave our place of business and go meet with the lawyers. And that's so expensive and time consuming. I would say from what you said, this would really solve a lot of that situation.
Yeah, the whole idea is we get the fact that you can't have somebody on retainer because it's too expensive. We get the fact that you can't have an in-house legal counsel, and that the small business owner is working in their business most of the time. And when the cat's away, the mice play. So that's not a good idea. You don't want to leave and go to the doctor and sit there. And you don't want to go to the lawyer's office and wait for them. So, I'm sorry, he's delayed in court. It's going to be another couple of hours. And you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs going. So the app-based technology that LegalShield delivers the services through, you take a picture on your app of the contract, push a button, send it off to the law firm, and they call you back. You take the phone call, right? Wherever you are. Maybe you're out at a customer's, maybe you're at an install, maybe you're driving between one location of your business and another. Maybe you're, working in your retail store and you can duck back into the furnace room or the office to take the phone call and say, hey, okay, I got to take this phone call from my lawyer. So it's service based on your availability and 24-hour response time. If you picked up the phone and called a local lawyer, they say, yeah, we're buds at the Chamber of Commerce, so we've golfed together or whatever, I'm not available for 3 weeks. 2 weeks I'm on holidays, and then I've got a long court case. And so you can't wait to get your answer for 3 weeks. You need a decision now. That's what we deliver through the app, the convenience of on the go, as opposed to, so it gives you that access that you would have as a big business having in-house legal counsel in a way that's at an affordable price. That's a great question, Rob. So
I can see it really reducing stress in the workplace for sure. So thank you. Great presentation.
if we can just get people to pick up the phone and ask, that's the thing that we're trying to push. So anybody else
Brad,
got a
Shane
question?
has a question. Shane's question was in the chat. He said, if you have a work from home business, should one check with an attorney for LegalShield for a specific plan coverage on a specific situation?
No, the small business consultant from LegalShield would be the best person to talk to sit down with you as a small business owner and look at what your needs are on an individual basis, not only just now, but how do we grow with your business so that we're not just looking at coverage now, but down the road. What are your biggest challenges in the next 6 to 12 months? Where do you anticipate your business being in the next 6 to 12 months? And I'll just give you an example. Right now you may be operating only in your local jurisdiction, but as we go online and we do more of our business online, you're going to have a client from a different province. You're going to have a client from a different country. How do you get your contract to be compliant and protect you in that situation? That's just one quick example. So speak with a small business consultant from LegalShield, and they'll hook you up with the right plan. And then the lawyers provide the service delivery on that plan. And as your business grows, we can upgrade or downgrade you as we need to. So great question.
I just want to compliment Andrew with the picture with his dog with glasses on.
Andrew, did you paint that? Is that your area of expertise?
No, it's my spin on my office. That's all it is.
Okay, what's your business? Tell us a little bit about it.
I own a security company, so we do
Okay.
home and commercial, a lot of small business stuff too. I do have a question, and I actually do have a lawyer on retainer. I guess
Congratulations.
my question is and I say this with all due respect because I don't know. but the quality of the representation, like I'm always looking for the best of the best, right? So I've got a pending issue that's is probably going to be a lawsuit, and you know, I want the best representation. I'm actually the one being sued for an older business, anyways. So when letters are sent, when contact is made, where is that actual contact coming from? Is it quote unquote LegalShield, or is it like a law office? Like,
Really great question. Great question. Thank you for asking. The way that LegalShield works is kind of like the CAA model. So when you call CAA, you're calling the company, but the service is delivered by a local tow truck company in your area. That's how they can get a tow truck to you faster. So LegalShield's the same concept. We've got a North American business, but it's delivered by the law firm in your state or province that you've got the issue in. So if you've got an issue in Ontario, you're talking to an Ontario lawyer that knows Ontario law, your obligations and your rights, the other guy's obligations and his rights, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And our services are delivered by a lawyer that's got at least 5 years experience at that issue of law in the bar. So it's not a paralegal. It's not some articling student. It's not a research associate. It's somebody that's worked in that field of law. Commercial real estate's different than personal real estate. Family law is different than criminal. You know, litigation law is different than contract law, obviously. So you're getting a lawyer that's going to give you advice and consultation and write those letters that's at least 5 years experience, on average 19 years experience in that particular area of law. So I always appreciate that question because it allows us to sort of brag on our law firms. You know, these lawyers that signed up with LegalShield, they do it because they want to help people. They don't want to bill people. And they're like, you know what, this service allows me to spend my time on the phone all day long helping people because I'm already paid, as opposed to, you know, all the accounting back end of I sent an email, I spent 10 minutes, I've reviewed a document, I spent time on the phone and documenting. If you ever used a lawyer, you know what their detailed billing statement looks like. It's a pain in the neck, right? They get to just make the phone calls because it's prepaid service taking care of all those things for you. So they love that they get to serve more than they get to be an accountant and minute keeper. So I want to respect everybody's time. Let's talk about the Ontario law firm here in Ontario. I'm assuming most of you from the GTA would be serviced by that law firm. It's Mills and Mills. I invite you to go look. millsandmills.ca is the website address. Look at the pedigree. Look at the experience of the lawyers that are serving our LegalShield members. Here's what I know. I'm a frugal businessman. If I don't get more value from a service than what it costs me, then I don't keep it the following year. And I've been a member now for 19 years, which means every year I get more value or peace of mind or combined than what my monthly membership fees cost me. And by the way, legal fees are an eligible taxable deduction. So you don't have to pay it with after-tax dollars, you pay it with before-tax dollars. If you need some advice on that, speak to your lawyer, speak to your accountant, and we can make sure that you're getting that all done properly. So again, thanks Shannon for having me on as a guest speaker. Suresh, thank you for the time to put this together. I hope it's been helpful to you and your business owners at your Connect GTA. So I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe. Shannon,
Thank you,
do you have
Mr.
anything?
Roberts. Appreciate your time, sir. Suresh, thank you. Connecting GTA. Appreciate this opportunity, and thank you, guests, for coming on. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel to reach out to either myself, Brad, or whoever invited you on the call. Thanks so much, and have a great day, everybody.
Stay safe, guys.
Stay safe, everybody. Take care.